Vinícius Jr. being linked to Manchester United. There are a few other stories this morning we want to get through as well. Reports on Adam Wharton alongside Vinícius Jr., different fullback for Manchester United coming in, along with all of your live chat and opinions as well. I know this one is a bit of a crazy story. I want to get all your opinions in on this. We have obviously got a poll running right now on this one. And just answer the question straight out. Would you take Vinícius Jr.? Is Vinícius Jr. for you? Yes or no, basically. The poll is there. Not me or me, basically. Would you take Vinícius Jr. at United? And it's already up and running with over 200 votes straight away as soon as we kickstart the show this morning. And I'm not surprised where the vote is going, but we'll leave it rolling and we'll leave it going just so everybody could have their say on this. But when it comes to this story and it comes to what has been said, it is a story. It's a story from Romain Malinov, who says that Manchester United are the only option for Vinícius Jr. if he leaves Real Madrid this summer. Madrid have been clear. Vinícius Jr. either extends his contract or they will look to sell him this summer.
And this is massive. Morgan Rogers goes to Chelsea for £117 million. And instantly you will get some United fans coming out saying, well, I'm glad my club doesn't buy players for that price. They might flop. I'd rather we played within our budget. I'm quite comfortable with a wage limit. I'm quite comfortable with us buying cheaper players in the long term. Respect. Okay, if that's your opinion, and I'm sure there'll be plenty of people in the chat who are like that, but answer me this. Chelsea, £117 million on Morgan Rogers. Elliot Anderson, Manchester City, £116 million. You've got Tottenham spending 85 on Mateus Fernandes and 90 on Tonali. You've then got Arsenal and Liverpool that are capable of doing it and have done it and probably will do it. So if all the top six are willing to go north of £85 million up to £115 million to buy talent, whether it's overpriced or not, what that says to me is ambition. That just says ambition. And what this actually comes down to is personal preference, but it also comes down to ownership. And we go all the way back to the Qatar or Ineos option. And those of us who said, I want the Glazers out, I want owners who come in and spend money, are sat here saying, look, don't pontificate to us that this is the way to go when we never asked for it. There is basically ownership appetite at play here. And it's important. It's massive because some of us didn't sign up to the Glazers in Ineos. Some of us think it's a massive mistake. And some of us feel that when you see other clubs paying ridiculous money for players, and it may well be ridiculous money, it still shows that at the very core of an entertainment business where we love these football clubs, some clubs are more ambitious than Manchester United. Now, are we right to sit here and go, well, I agree. I think we should buy cheap. I think we should have a wage limit. And I do think it's an important conversation. I don't think it's as easy as, and look, let me get it out there straight away. Oh, this bro wants us to spend more money when we've been spending money for years. Look how that worked. Okay, well, this bro says, how do you make Man United great again? How do you? Because everybody I've ever spoken to says we need to spend money. So we'll go back to expensive mistakes. And as I've said, remove mistakes. Expensive is fine. Our problem is we could make cheap mistakes. We can make expensive mistakes. We certainly have. But surely that's down to recruitment. You know, you look at the players that we bought that flopped. Well, was that expensive mistakes or was that mistakes? There are expensive success stories as well. Erling Haaland would be a prime example of that. So I think ambition is what big clubs do. I think spending big is what big clubs do. And I think clubs that don't spend big are not ambitious. And if we had some sort of, new amazing model that I had confidence in or any, CV of, maybe I'd go, I think this is going to work. But what we actually know about this ownership that we have is that they've sacked half the workforce. They've increased ticket prices. They've increased the debt. They are business people. They haven't set a wage limit because they think that's the way to win a title. They've set a wage limit because they don't want to spend more than that. They haven't said we're not going to pay any more than £80 million for a player because they think that's the way to win the Premier League. They've done that because they don't want to spend more than £80 million on players. So there's a flaw to the logic straight away. But I think it is big. I think when you've got Man City buying Elliot Anderson for 116 or 115 million pounds, you can sort of go, well, it's City. But there's a multitude of our rivals doing this now. And it only takes one or two of them for it. If it works for Chelsea playing one game a week, where are we? If it works for Tottenham playing one game a week, where are we? if they're ambitious, and let's get this very, very clear here, Chelsea aren't spending that money on Morgan Rogers to be ridiculed later in the season and finish 7th. And Tottenham aren't spending that money on Tonali and Fernandes to be ridiculed next May when they finish 10th. They are ambitiously going after a Champions League spot because that's where you get your money back. It's £100 million of revenue in 9 months' time. So let's not have any doubts here. We can sit on our moral high horse saying, well, we're right not to get involved in that. I'm glad we're only buying players for £50 million. But it's a risk. It's a risk. And I think it's an important topic. Now, I'm not saying my opinion's correct. It's an opinion. And there are people I've seen on social media already saying, I'd rather be Man United. I'd rather be us spending our money wisely than throwing money at silly players where it might flop. Well, Andre Santos could flop as much as Morgan Rogers. Tielemans could flop as much as Tonali. I know what I'd prefer. And Tonali's more expensive. And that's nothing against Tielemans. I'm just saying the cheaper option can still be a mistake. So I think this is about ambition. And I know what type of owner I'd rather have. I'd rather have the owner that breaks British transfer records for Roy Keane. That goes and spends ridiculous money on Wayne Rooney. Or Rio Ferdinand. Or Ruud van Nistelrooy. Or Andy Cole. I would like that ownership. Because that's the only period of success I've seen with my football club. And I liked it. I don't actually like the idea of, basically spending our Sundays going around the equivalent of a car boot sale, trying to sign hidden gems while everybody else is shopping in a Ferrari forecourt. I think it's a risk. And I think it's because we don't have a lot of money. And that doesn't fill me with confidence because ultimately football is an entertainment business where you want to beat your rivals. And I don't think we are squaring up to our rivals on a level playing field anymore. I think we have basically taken ourselves out of direct competition with these other clubs by refusing to pay the prices. And we are trying to be competitive against clubs that are already ahead of us on half the transfer fees. I'm not saying it's unachievable, but it certainly makes our job harder. So, and look, the club contradicts itself. Our plan A was Elliot Anderson. He's at Man City. Our plan B was either Tonali or Fernandes. They're both at Spurs now. Our plan C is obviously, well, I suppose plan C or D, depending how you look at it, because I've just named 2 players there, is signing a new contract at Real Madrid. So even Man United's targets that they wanted, they priced themselves out of. So I think that, I think this could come crashing down very quickly. I don't want it to. I want it to work. I want it to work for Carrick. I want it to work for us. I do not want another season outside of Europe, but I think it's a valid conversation. And whilst I know there'll be plenty of people in the comments saying, well, we shouldn't be overpaying, I agree with what the club are doing. I think there'll be plenty of people saying, I disagree with that. I disagree with that model. And look, to everybody who says, wow, because we get it from Arsenal fans, we get it from Liverpool fans, and unfortunately we have our people in our own fan base doing it now. I've heard it so many times, it's boring. Wow, we tried spending loads of money and it didn't work. Even the club put it out there. It is the most feeble excuse I've ever heard. We tried spending money before and it didn't work, so now we're not going to. And this is something this is crap. This is crap our fans actually swallow. So we bought something that wasn't worth it, so we're not going to buy anything that might be worth it in the future. I mean, Man United need good players. Even in the pre-season game today, you've got Luke Shaw at left back, Harry Maguire at centre back, Mason Mount at number 10, and you go, yeah, these aren't gonna make a massive amount of difference for Manchester United, are they? And these are players that are touching on the first team. They are, homegrown. That's about it. They're all very expensive as well. I mean, look, you talk about cutting costs. 250 grand a week for Mount. Luke Shaw's on about 170. Harry Maguire's on about 170. I mean, you're talking considerable amount of money a week there on players that ultimately ain't going to, move the needle too much. But I mean, look, I think that there's probably a happy medium. I think the way we're behaving at the moment, not wanting to pay big wages, not wanting to pay big transfer fees, is too extreme. And I think the other extremity of just chucking money at everything is probably another extreme. The middle would be quite nice to just, you can solve this problem tomorrow. You can go and spend whatever it takes to get Vinícius Jr. You could shock the world by signing Cole Palmer from Chelsea. We could go and still do one of these deals. It's not off the table. but it appears to be off the table. And whilst everybody else is at that table, you just wonder where Man United's place is in the top level of England anymore. I mean, look, the club will tell you we're right at the top. Wilcox did it today. Berardi did it a few weeks ago. But I don't know whether I genuinely believe that. They need to put bums on seats. They need to sell shirts. They need the money to keep coming in. You know, ultimately, the best sale, you know, the salesman wears a nice shirt and a nice suit and drives a nice car. He might be, you know, very, you know, might be massively overdrawn, but he's showing up and saying, look, yeah, I'm a great salesman, because he needs to sell. Is that not potentially what Man United are doing, putting a front up to keep the money rolling in? But look, I think I just definitely believe it's a massive point, and it's certainly a topic of conversation. And it's not one that's going to change. But I think ultimately it comes down to the ownership you want. Do you want an ownership like we've got, who saddle us with debt and put limits in place and parameters and refuse to spend the money because they don't want to be ambitious because it costs money? Or do you want owners like Man City or Spurs or Chelsea or Arsenal or Liverpool who will go and spend the money to get the players they need? There used to be a time where we could sweep this under the carpet and say, well, it's Man City, they're cheats. Or it's Chelsea and Roman Abramovich money. But there's too many clubs doing it now. Spurs are doing it, Arsenal are doing it, Liverpool are doing it, Man City are still doing it, Chelsea are doing it. I mean, that's 5 clubs that are out there spending big money on players, and we're not part of that. How much longer until another club comes forward and starts doing it? I mean, 5 is enough for me. There's only 5 spaces available in the Champions League. Let me know your comments. Smash a like on the video and subscribe. I'll speak to you on the next one.